Hello and welcome. I'm Margaret Johnson here with Mike Mullin of IBSRE and protectmyit.com. We're so happy to have you with us on our very first podinar. Now, kind of what's a podinar? Well, it's something Mike and I invented, and it's a combination webinar and podcast. We're unscripted. We haven't rehearsed. We have a few things written on slides that we'll show you as we go if we remember. But overall, we're just here to talk about 15 shocking statistics about cyber insurance and help you see what those statistics are and think, oh, could that happen to me? How do I keep that from happening? So that said, hi, Mike.
Good morning, Margaret. How are you?
I'm good. And we've got 30 minutes together. Let's talk about the fact that in 2024, more than 40% of cyber insurance claims were denied by insurers. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I'll take this. I'll take the 2024 statistic as proved truth, but say that it's gotten worse since then. So I would tell you that in 2025, that number is pushing probably 55 to 60%. And insurers are staying in their guardrails, right? They give you your policy and your how you're underwritten and your policy. And if you don't live within those boundaries, they are going to deny the claim. Many times they give you back your premium, but your premium's nothing compared to your loss during the event.
Wow. So 100 people are on this meeting right now. Basically, 60 of the people that are on this meeting could have their cyber insurance claim denied.
Correct. Correct.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Well, that's scary.
Well, even if they have cyber insurance, be the first thing. So those 100 people all have insurance.
Well, that's a good question because one of the statistics is that small businesses are getting priced out of having cyber liability insurance,
Yep.
that the premiums are just getting to be too high, or the cost of doing what the premiums require them to do is being perceived as being too high. Do you think?
Um, I think that's one of the reasons, certainly a couple of the reasons why what's going on in the insurance marketplace. But I think it's mostly people don't understand. People looking for insurance don't understand when they apply for insurance that they've got to actually then do what they first of all must be doing what they say they're doing. So if you have MFA, if you tell them you're using MFA, then you have to use MFA on every user in your organization. It's a reason.
Right.
That's a reason for denial. One person doesn't have one of your other controls in place. That's a reason for denial. So it's making sure that when you apply for insurance, that you tell me exactly what you're doing so that you can be underwritten at the right level, and that you continually keep those controls in place throughout the policy. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, if they find during remediation, they find that the CEO doesn't have MFA on his accounts because he doesn't want to, they will deny the claim.
Wow. Well, and I tossed that slide up here. So one of the key statistics that we work with every day is missing technical controls, right? A major reason for denial is that having the required controls like MFA or endpoint protection aren't fully implemented at breach time. So if you're only partially protected, you'll get fully rejected. And
Well, I
that's the
think the thing
place
is,
where you don't want to be, right?
right, and I think the thing is you may have been they may have been fully implemented at the time of application, and then you hire 5 people and you forget to put those controls on those 5 people. Now, if there's an event, you're immediately going to be denied. The first thing they're going to do is pull out your application, see, oh, you had 12 computers, you now have 17. Those 5 didn't. Sorry, your claim's denied. Here's your premium back because you no longer have insurance.
Wow. Well, so let's talk about the fact that 60%, according to some statistics, of cyber insurance claims stem from business email compromise or funds transfer incidents. Now, you and I have talked about these before.
Mhm.
We've told stories of the title company that got hacked and was giving somebody the account number that sent their $10 million to the Cayman Islands instead of to the title
Chicago.
company. And this is huge, right? And
Yep.
getting only bigger.
It is getting bigger, and I think it's getting, one of the reasons it's getting bigger is it used to be that if you got a threat actor's email, you'd look at it and say the English was bad, the grammar was bad, the format of it was bad. So many times you would say, yeah, that's not the CEO. I'm going to delete this email and go on. But they've gotten better with AI has certainly improved their ability to make an email that looks and feels just like it came from your CEO. And your CEO said, wire the $75,000 and that's your job. So you go wire the $75,000 only to find out 15 minutes to 15 hours later that that $55,000
Oof.
is gone. Uh,
Right.
um,
Well, and so, I mean, one of our statistics here is about unmanaged devices, right? So, true story. I'm embarrassed to say my husband and I were in the drive-through lane at McDonald's last night, and he was on his phone watching reels on Facebook. And I don't know if you've ever, listeners, if you've ever been caught in the reels reel, just raise your hand. It's fine. It's okay. All is forgiven. But in the middle of watching a reel, he got a note that popped up on the screen that says, a wiretap has been detected on your phone. Click here to run a scan. And he said, Margaret, look at this. Should I run a scan? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. But what's interesting is this scary statistic. 90% of ransomware attacks begin at unprotected devices,
mhm.
leading to near automatic claim denials. And our little quote that we have here, your weakest endpoint is your insurer's strongest excuse. What do you have to say about that, Michael?
Well, and I think that's one of the pieces of ensuring that you remain in compliance to your application is ensuring that all your devices are monitored and that they have the proper controls put on. And as a provider, we can put together a script that says if a machine logs onto the network and it doesn't have these components, we can automatically install them so that they're there all the time. And you know, still the most common way for people to get into for a threat actor to get into your system is for somebody to give up their username and password. Once they're in the username and password, then they can actually start trying to turn that stuff off so they can stay behind a smoke screen. So that to make sure your controls can't be deleted by a user or uninstalled by a user. It must be done with admin privileges just to keep protected. Ensure the
So,
device has controls and that they stay there.
so theoretically, or maybe not so theoretically, if Bob's phone had um attached to a corporate network that was properly secured with endpoint protection, meaning all devices that attached have protection,
Mhm.
then he never would have seen that message because it would have been caught by the spam filters or
Yep,
whatever device
yep,
controls are on there.
yep. It is interesting because you do see new things getting by the spam filters. And 3 to 5 days later, the spam filters learned it and start adjusting for things. But there are times when you'll start seeing spam coming in that they have found a tweak to be able to get past the filters. And then the filters will turn it off. But in that
So,
3 to 5 days, anyone can be fooled to typing in their username and password and giving it up to a threat actor. And once they're in, they'll sit there for a period of time waiting for you to waiting to gather the information they want, and then once they're done, that's when they'll turn on a switch and try to ransom everybody.
so I don't know if this is an urban myth or not. And folks on the call, if you know about this, go ahead and drop something in the chat for us. Here's the thing. I was always taught that when it comes to insuring your car, if you say, "Oh my God, my car got stolen," and they say, "Were the doors locked?" And you go, "No, I never locked the doors." "Well, where were the keys?" "Well, I keep them in the console." "Sorry, we're not paying your claim." Right? I mean,
You're not you're not doing practical things to protect yourself.
and it seems like that same kind of thing is what's now getting applied to cybersecurity. If you're not taking the steps that we say you need to take, or just common sense steps,
Right.
then we're not going to cover you.
Right.
So, hey, Mike, one of the things that is not covered by these shocking statistics that I want to make sure we talk about is the huge, wild, wild west that is opened up with AI. And I heard, maybe you told me this story about a company that had somebody in the accounting department upload their financial statements to ChatGPT
504 times.
504 times, asking for help with financial analysis.
Correct. Yep. It is certainly while AI has lots of potential to do wonderful things for all of us, the guardrails are tough at the moment, right? It is the wild, wild west. People are learning every day of what AI and automation and agents can do for them. At the same time, that's the threat actors are doing the same thing. They're learning all the things that they can do with it too. Um, so yes, you've got to protect when you're using AI. You have to make sure that you, first of all, use a paid version. Um, there's more security around that than there's not. And the other piece would be have your own engine created. So you combine your data that you protect and store on your network with what's in the cloud and come up with personalized answers. With
So I
never having
think
to load that data to the cloud.
we just scared Eddie. He wants to know how you can tell if a person has done this.
Well, I think that there's a couple different ways. Probably the most effective is there are solutions that will sit on top of your data and do an analysis of the data and then compare it to where else it is showing up and you can come up with a list.
Well,
But you can
how
look
do
at
we know that 504 times somebody uploaded financials?
because the tools told us that.
Ah, okay. So it's a
Um,
matter of tools.
yes, yeah, but can be part of your ongoing compliance would be to run those tools. Um,
Right.
it usually is.
So here's a really key point for everyone hearing this session, this podinar. If you don't have some guardrails in your internal policies about how AI is to be used, you need to do that.
Mhm.
That company needs a policy that says no financial information from this company gets uploaded to X. Never. And unless they come up with their own thing and
Right.
then they have an approved AI strategy. But in the absence of strategy or guidelines or rules, people are going to make up their own thing and they're going to plow their own roads and ride their own horses. And how many more wild wild west analogies can I make here?
Well,
But
I think it's strict rules in the AI world may be tough to live with. Guardrails will make more sense because there may be a horse that jumps that guardrail and takes a shortcut. That may be the best thing to do to get outside that guardrail. But most of the time, you want to be able to give some direction to your staff so they're not just willy nilly throwing stuff up on the engine. Because once it's there, it's always there, it's really hard to get it back out. Like there's no way to get it back out.
well,
Uh,
and we just talked about somebody uploading financial statements, but now imagine that your HR person, an HR person, uploads a list of employees with all their personally identifiable information because they have that in their spreadsheet.
yeah.
And they're looking for analysis of who's most likely to quit next year, or what kind of
Yes,
raises am I
whatever,
going to be
whatever
under,
question they need the
whatever.
answer. Yep.
And now you've got PII out there in a large language model, LLM, one of the one of the AI engines. And now you've got things like the New York Shield Law and other regulatory issues that could come and bankrupt you just in fines.
Yep. Yep. 5,000 is a record, and $250,000 if you don't tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just have to be cognizant of that this stuff is happening, and sit with whoever is your CIO, VCIO, whoever is your technology whisperer, and talk through what's going on and what fits your organization. Um, you know, it's the way to get your arms around this stuff is not to hear it say, "Oh my gosh, I can't afford that." Put blinders on and not do anything. Best thing is to sit back and talk to somebody about your specific
Environment.
environment, and walk through it together.
Yeah. So in 2024, business email compromise, the whole I'm pretending to be somebody else so you'll transfer funds to my
Mm-hmm.
account instead of where you're supposed to put it, resulted in $2.77 billion in losses in 2024. And
It's reported.
that's recorded 21,442 reported incidents to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. So we're talking some big numbers here. So
Yeah, part of that number has to be the FBI will acknowledge that they're not tracking there's lots of these that happen that are not being reported to them too.
oh yeah.
So that number could be twice as big as it is. Uh, yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, I've seen a couple of these personally for very big money that were it, it was very lucky that somebody noticed it before the transaction occurred.
Oh
It,
yeah,
that
absolutely.
somebody stood up and said that's not the right wire instructions, and they stopped pressing the button on a $12.5 million wire, because once that wire is gone, it's gone. The IRS or the FBI doesn't have it all, doesn't know everything, but it is certainly a huge issue, and it's getting harder and harder to recognize um, these man-in-the-middle type of attacks.
Right. So so you get attacked, you get a ransomware go and your systems are locked up. You get business email compromise and you have lost a bunch of money. You get some other kind of hack and your systems all crash. Your gut instinct is to race into fix it mode. Call Mike or somebody like Mike, somebody on Mike's team, or somebody like Mike's team, right? And say, help, help, I need help. But here's a critical thing you absolutely have to know. 73% of claims fall under incident response and crisis management, but many get denied for procedural missteps. So talk to us about that, Mike. What
So
happens when people rush into the breach?
insurance companies have a process, and when you get underwritten, they explain what the process is, and you best abide by their process. The first call should be to the insurance company. It's not usually, right? It's to your IT guy saying, the computer's frozen. And the computer guy is going to say, well, let's fix that and fix it. And then as you start seeing that everybody in the organization is ransomed, it becomes a bigger issue. So now we say, oh, we're going to have to go to the insurance company. We get them involved, and they bring on a forensics team. And if the forensics team can't figure out what happened, it may come to the point where they just say, listen, your actions caused the underlying activity to be deleted. We don't know how this happened. We don't we don't know that since we can't figure out how it happened or what, they're going to deny that claim too. You just have to be careful when you, first of all, have an IR plan, have an incident response plan. It doesn't have to be a lot, a couple pages that just kind of maps out what happens in the case of an incident response. And not just an incident response to cybersecurity, but what happens if the building burns down? What happens if there's no electricity? All of those things have how you want your employees to respond to that incident. Cyber incidents should be included in that kind of documentation.
Well, and depending on what industry you're in, you're required to have an incident response plan too,
every
regulatorily.
business should be required to have an incident response
Right. Right. Well, everybody needs to know what to do. So,
plan.
and that's one of the things that you help people with, right? Is getting their
Absolutely.
their
And I think one of
insurance.
the things you have to remember that when this starts happening to you, when you get ransomed or you have a BC event occur, the adrenaline is pumping hard. You have a tendency to rush to do something, and that may not be the most expedient thing to do. To fall back to have something you created at a rational time that says the first call we make is here, the second call we make is here, takes that burden off of you while you're being stressed during an event.
So, one of the statistics that we have here is that 45% of people who responded to a cyber incident survey had claims denied because their losses weren't actually covered by their policy. And that is something you got to have a great relationship with your cyber liability insurance provider. And they've got to talk straight, and you've got to talk straight in return, right? And you've got to understand what's covered and what an insurer might call collateral damage. Oh, sorry, not covering that.
Yeah. Yes. So you've got to make sure that you have enough coverage, not too much, because you don't want to pay more than you have to, but a good insurance broker should be able to sit with you and walk you through how much coverage does my business need. I'm going to be out of business during an average ransom attack around 10 days. If I didn't have revenue for 10 days because I don't have a system to take orders on, what does that cost me? Making sure that you then have the proper policies in place to cover those kind of losses. They're never going to cover new equipment. I mean, I guess you have a policy written that does it, but you probably don't want to. The cost would be exorbitant, but they will use, but they will cover. They'll even cover, in some cases, will cover ransom payments. Now that's becoming harder and harder to do, and they're not putting that into policies. But for a while now, they have been actually paying ransoms. But the ransom numbers have gotten so stupid that
Recently jumped to $2 million per incident,
right.
according to what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, and I think it then lets you, if you can rebuild your whole network for substantially less than you're going to pay the ransom people. What you have to make sure then is that your data that they could possibly take off your system and blackmail you with is in a state where that it's meaningless to them.
It has to be totally encrypted and
make sure that at least the sections of your drive where you're storing PII is encrypted. That way, if it goes off the network, you don't care, and they can send you all the ransom that they want. If you're comfortable that the data they have is meaningless to them or to anybody else, you don't have to negotiate.
so I popped this slide up. 63% of denied claims are because incident costs exceeded policy coverage limits. So what you just said, I think, transitions well into talking about this for a moment, because you want to make sure you have the right amount, not too much because the cost will be excessive, but enough that you're covered.
Yep. Yeah, I think again, if your business insurance broker should be able to help guide you into that coverage. What is the worst thing that could happen from a cyber event, and now we want to insure for that worst thing. So how long would systems be down? What would the fines or be worth if that stuff happened? So you should be able to talk to your broker and come up with a plan that will help your business. And if the average is $2 million in a ransom attack, then I guess you need a couple $1 million worth of insurance.
We have other statistics that are pretty shocking as well. Like, for example, if a nation state attacks, your policy cyber liability insurance policies often exclude
But
coverage for government sponsored attacks. So you could be totally stranded if you get attacked by, a prince in, uh, you know, some other country.
that's true. That's true. Um, but most of the attacks that I've seen anyway have been um, just black hats trying to steal your money. They're not looking for state secrets. Um, they're looking to get you to ransom you, to gather your data, take it off your network, ransom you, say, oh, here's the key, pay me for the key, and then come back a week later and say, hey, by the way, we took all this data off your network. Now you have to pay us for that too. So it becomes extortion and blackmail multiple times over the same incident. You just got to be diligent and make sure that you and your IT provider have the proper tools in place to protect your data and to protect your company from not getting paid,
Right.
denied claims.
Well, and the insurance company rarely publishes detailed denial statistics, and that opaqueness is a warning sign itself.
Of course, they don't want to tell you how many people they denied.
No, they don't. They don't. So, here's the thing. If you want to talk about any of this, here's Mike's email address and phone number and a nice picture of the guy wearing his IBS shirt there. Go visit protectmyit.com. And again, if you want to talk to Mike, Mullin at ibsre.com, 973-575-4950. Let us know how we can help.
I appreciate everyone. If you have any questions, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll try to direct you the most profitable way for you. So, all right, then. Have a great day.
To get your free 10-question checklist and avoid being shocked, visit protectmyit.com /1112 checklist.